What is it we want to be relevant for now? Yesterday, I spoke at somewhat greater length on this question of how the world has changed. The president of Harvard, one of the Davos meetings, said a couple of years ago that the significance of the change with which the world is gripped historically will, in his mind, be greater than the change that occurred on account of either the Industrial Revolution or the Reformation. Now, he was in an audience which was an aware and highly educated audience. And I'm told that when he said it, people felt it was a challenging pronouncement, but none of them thought it was unwarranted hyperbole. Because people do sense that the flow of change and transformation now is really of historic proportions and also existentially fateful. Because what happens in this century will mark the future of the human community. This century is different from previous centuries in one important respect, which is that most of the dilemmas the century is faced with are not amenable to postponement to another century. Look at East-West relations. I would have thought in my working life the political polarity of East-West relations will shift, if at all, glacially. It has collapsed in a sense overnight. Now, Joe and I, common friend of David's and mine, wrote a book on leadership I recently read, and he made the point, it's not that the Soviet Union could not keep up with Star Wars. He said the deeper truth is that the Soviet Union could not keep up with the 21st century. The point he was trying to make was that if you choose in your actions and the way in which you define your state, and if you want to convert yourself into a dinosaur, then you must worry about climate change. And this is the process of transition with which every society today is gripped. They have to answer some very important questions about themselves, and they have to think on their feet. Look at North-South. I would have thought that the polarity in the economic terms of North-South would not vanish either in my lifetime. That hasn't collapsed dramatically, but is evaporating before our eyes. Fukuyama wrote a book which was frequently cited because it was so dramatically wrong. I'm sure the author didn't mind that because I think people bought to read it. It's called The End of History. Well, I think another book is now due on the economic side of what's happened called The End of Geography. Because North and South are actually geographical ideas. We knew what the North was geographically. We knew the territorial definition of the North. It's not possible anymore. North now is an ability. It's not geography. The truth is that territorial boundaries now expressing the limits of nation states is losing relevance with every passing year. You really are being thrown into a world which is globalizing, which is decentralizing, disaggregating, and compacting as well. Now, the idea of compacting is a little different from globalizing. Globalizing means, well, it could mean that it's by and large a benign phenomenon, but compacting is not like that. Compacting has a certain degree of velocity, if not violence, inherent in it. But the pace of change is such that we're actually compacting more than we are globalizing. Parts of us are integrating culturally. We are becoming world citizens, international citizens. And part of it is frankly colliding, which is what started with Huntington and this idea, which is still has many takers, the books and the literature, which is how is it that we're going to coexist as a human community? And what are the principles that we are able to evolve? Now, I feel that the Commonwealth is challenged in being relevant and appropriate in respect of all of these challenges. And I see the major challenges as follows. One, concentrate more and build much more on your work which encourages societies to see themselves essentially as value-based, people-oriented human communities. We've already done an enormous amount of work here. We are a unique organization in the depth of the breadth which we can draw. In respect of the Maldives, it began with a special envoy about 7 or 8 years ago, simply saying that, we should move away from one-party states, and politics of this nature is really, there's no future in it. To a time when we could monitor and supervise elections on a multi-party basis, help with the writing of the Constitution, help with the creation of the institutions to do with elections and human rights, and all the laws pertaining to the parties. Given that the Commonwealth is in all continents, embraces all races, all religions, it has all types and definitions of statehood and development, I think it has the authority to be able to speak from a template which can become a global template because it is a perfect microcosm. But the point is that in this world today, one thing we have to understand, and we have a Marlborough House declaration saying that now we are going to be judged by inclusiveness, not by the culture of decision makers and decision takers, but by the admission that the outcomes of everything which we do will be judged by what they mean to any human settlement, irrespective of size and endowment. Francophonie and the Commonwealth represent half the world's population. They represent more than half of the world's countries. So hopefully what we say has an audience. And before the G20, we made some of the points that I'm mentioning to you. We said that the G20 contains 90% of the world's GDP and excludes 90% of the world's countries. So what is it that it can say which can possibly be of interest to those that are outside? This is the test by which they will be judged. And we said that I hope the new members will not consider themselves now as members of an expanded magic circle, but not as G20, but as T20, which is Trustees 20, trustees for the hopes and ambitions of a new world.
Thank you very much, Secretary General.